Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
Lux Lion is an online boutique that showcases gorgeous, handcrafted jewelry and accessories from highly skilled African designers. If you've been thinking about making a purchase from Lux Lion, there's no better time than now. I'm running a holiday special while supplies last. Use promo code THANKFUL30 for 30% off your purchase. Welcome to the State of Freedom, everyone, where we are grounded in faith and the Constitution, and we are committed to giving voice to the truth, living with courage, and taking action. It is Tuesday, December 16th at 10 a.m. Central, if you can believe it. The time is racing forward.
Did you say what date did you say it is?
No, it's the 18th. You're right. I had the 16th down.
I got that, but listen, I have no room to talk, Danielle, because when it was Tuesday, I said Happy Friday to you.
That's true. We're all discombobulated. We're going to make it. Yeah. Well, I'm Danielle Walker, and I am joined by my friend and co-host, the watchdog and chief of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, Chris Alexander. And we are coming to you live on Voice of the People TV, Voice of the People USA TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. You can always catch us later on our audio-only platforms, if I can speak today, like Spotify and Apple Podcast. Well, joining us today for our last episode of 2025 is our dear friend, Joe Hoft. Let me bring him forward. I know you all know Joe, but he is the author of the Steel Collection, which incidentally would make an excellent Christmas gift. He's the editor-in-chief of joehoft.com and a sought-after commentator for people who love the truth. And Joe, you might not know this, but since you said that you would be willing to come on as a more regular, more frequent guest, we named your episodes the Patriot Pulse with Joe Hoft.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, really I thought it had a nice ring to it.
I love that name. I love that.
It's kind of Christmassy too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. By the way, I want to tell you, December 16th is my twin brother Jim's birthday, so that's why you said December 16th.
Oh, well, if it's your twin brother, y'all weren't born on the same day. Were you born a day apart?
Yeah, same day.
Same day. Happy birthday.
So it's mine too. Thanks.
Happy.
Nice.
Danielle is channeling the Hoft brothers today.
I think so.
That's right. That's right.
A spiritual thing.
Yeah.
It's it. Speaking of a spiritual thing, let me read the scripture of the day. And Chris, inspired by you and Holy Spirit, I'm going to read the Christmas story today. So settle in, folks. It is Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 20. And it says, during those days, the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus ordered that the first census be taken throughout his empire. Quirinius was the governor of Syria at that time. Everyone had to travel to his or her hometown to complete the mandatory census. So Joseph and his fiancée Mary left Nazareth, a village in Galilee, and journeyed to their hometown in Judea to the village of Bethlehem, King David's ancient home. They were required to register there since they were both direct descendants of David. Mary was pregnant and nearly ready to give birth. When they arrived in Bethlehem, Mary went into labor, and there she gave birth to her firstborn son. After wrapping the newborn baby in strips of cloth, they laid him in a feeding trough since there was no available space in any upper room in the village. That night, in a field near Bethlehem, there were shepherds watching over their flocks. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord appeared in radiant splendor before them, lighting up the field with the blazing glory of God, and the shepherds were terrified. But the angel reassured them, saying, "Don't be afraid, for I have come to bring you good news, the most joyous news the world has ever heard, and it is for everyone everywhere. For today in Bethlehem, a rescuer was born for you. He is the Lord Yahweh, the Messiah. You will recognize him by this miracle sign. You will find a baby wrapped in strips of cloth and lying in a feeding trough." Then all at once a vast number of glorious angels appeared, the very armies of heaven, and they all praised God, singing, "Glory to God in the highest realms of heaven, for there is peace and a good hope given to the sons of men." When the choir of angels disappeared back to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go. Let's hurry and find this word that is born in Bethlehem and see for ourselves what the Lord has revealed to us." So they ran into the village and found their way to Mary and Joseph, and there was the baby lying in a feeding trough. Upon seeing this miraculous sign, the shepherds recounted what had just happened. Everyone who heard the shepherd's story was astonished by what they were told. But Mary treasured all these things in her heart and often pondered what they meant. The shepherds returned to their flock, ecstatic over what had happened. They praised God and glorified him for all they had heard and seen for themselves, just like the angel had said. And what a beautiful reminder as we head into Christmas, the story of the birth of Jesus, our rescuer from our sin that separated us from God. And he is God with us. Because of Jesus coming to us, we have so much to be thankful for and so much to celebrate. No matter what happened this year and no matter what happens next year, we have so much to be thankful for.
Indeed, we have. And I'm really not going to say anything in response to the scripture today because I think it's so beautiful that nothing that I say can do it justice. I'm just thankful for the birth of Christ, and I'm thankful for the many, many good friends that he has brought into our lives,
Yeah.
not the least of which is the one and only Joe Hoft, who is joining us for our last episode of the year. Even though I was talking in jest earlier, Joe, I really would have quit if Danielle had said, no, we have to have somebody else on. So I said,
Yeah.
there are certain days of the year when only Joe Hoft will do.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Thanks.
joining us, Joe. And, you know, we can talk about anything you want to talk about today, really. But I wanted to ask you right off, I'm curious, what do you remember from growing up, childhood or adolescence about Christmas?
Oh, that's a good question. I grew up in Iowa, so northwest Iowa, so it was cold. I guess the first thing I would think of is there's usually snow on the ground outside. We lived across, I'd say, a small house. At the time, it was normal, but small house. My parents had 9 kids, and Jim and I were tied for number 7th. And talked to my sister this week. We were born a couple days, and a couple years ago, and she was about 10 when we were born, and they didn't know. My mom didn't know she was having twins. She just thought she was having a big monster or something. She was just more pregnant than she'd ever been, and we were born, and she said, I got up, I saw Mom, and Mom looked at her like, go back to bed. And she was probably in labor, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure she was a bit scared because she put on so much weight this time with us. And I guess I'd heard that our heartbeats were in sync. So they couldn't, doctor couldn't tell that there was twins.
Wow.
I guess. Or maybe it's just a terrible doctor. I don't know. But she said that morning, so they went to the hospital. Dad came home, and he came home, and the kids my older siblings are there. At that point, we have 6 older siblings. He had on his jacket, it's a boy. And then he flipped it this way, and it says, it's a boy. So that's what she remembers. He had 2 boys. And I heard my dad tell a story about it, too. He said that a nun, it was a St. Joseph's hospital in Fort Dodge, Iowa, and a nun came up and gave Dad a pin. It's a boy, and he thought, great. Then a short time, a minute or so later, a different nun came up and gave him another pin and said, it's a boy. He goes, no, I already have one. He says. She goes, no, I know that. And that's how he learned that he had twins. So
He had twins.
And so so that would have been a cold day in December in Iowa. My older siblings were thrilled. They've always been just great support. That one sister called a couple days ago, and she's getting older. And my older brother, who's alive, he's getting older, and they still call on birthdays and stuff like that. So,
Are y'all able to see
siblings.
each other? Are y'all able to see each other very often? I come
Well,
from a
maybe
family
once
of
a year.
12.
We try to have something like
Yeah.
a family reunion in the summer, usually a golf outing we've been doing for years. Pretty much have made that 40 years now, at least 40 years we've been doing that. And I think last year was the first year I just couldn't make it. It was up in Iowa. But yeah, big family, close-knit family, Catholic family. I just think my mom was a saint. I really do. She had a challenging situation, and with 9 kids alone, it was quite a job. But then there's a lot going on there. So, beautiful lady. She's passed away. Just a superstar in my life.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I shared at her funeral that she's a saint, because she put up with a lot from us. We had a lot of, in our family, there's a lot of alcoholism, drug addiction, and started with my dad, and worked its way down, and through my mom's prayers, that's been removed from our family for 40 years.
So amazing.
So,
were y'all Catholic, Joe?
Miracle lady. Yeah, miracle lady.
Catholic.
She's a saint. Yeah.
I come from a family of 12, Joe, and so I relate to what you're saying on a variety of fronts. And so I absolutely, we have, I had forgotten that you came from such a large family. So you and I have more in common than I even thought.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You mentioned that to me recently. You got a brother who's also an attorney. You told that to me. I called you not long ago. For some reason, I was in Dallas, and I called you. We're working on a documentary on the January 6ers, and namely the 5 that got thrown together. Well, I guess there was a number of groups like this, and Chris, you could probably tell me. I thought, to me, it sounds outlandish that you would be charged alongside 2 or 3, or in this case, 4 other people. All had Enrique Tarrio was one. He was the leader of the Proud Boys. It's all Proud Boys, and he wasn't even there on January 6th. He got arrested a couple days ahead of time. For a prior crime. He had burnt a Black Lives Matter flag that he'd.
So you can get charged for that, but not the American flag?
That's right. So he was charged on that when he entered D.C. like on the 4th of January, 2021. They arrested him, and they said the judge said you cannot come back to D.C. until your hearing. And so he spent January 6th in a couple miles away in Maryland. And and they always write about it, the media, a traditional Black Episcopalian church or some garbage like that. I doubt if it's a Black church today. They just want to try to frame him as a racist. They don't say that he's half Black, a Cuban, Black American, and it's all the narrative in the media. It's just so disgusting. And so we sat down, talked to these guys, and 5 of them, Enrique being one, and heard their stories, and it's atrocious. So maybe we can jump into it. It's atrocious what these guys went through. Atrocious doesn't fit. It's not America. It was a fascist regime that was running this country. They're still around.
Yeah.
Still around. I just noticed. I read something yesterday. The new head of the MI6 for Britain. She's a grandchild of Nazis in Ukraine. So. I've heard that with the EU, all the leadership's grandchildren of Nazis. Wow. So and in Canada, we've linked some of the top players there to Nazis. So no surprise there. But that's why it seems like it's a Nazi regime running things, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And
do you think there's any? But obviously, Joe, there are certain days when I'm tempted to think that it is almost as bad as it was under Biden, but I know better. I know it's not that bad, but certainly we haven't had the kind of fumigation and house cleaning that I would like to see.
That's it. That's what we all are just shocked about. We can get to that. Anyways, we met these guys. I was in Dallas to meet Sidney Powell. She's going to be in the movie. I went down and met Laura Logan in Texas as well. Amazing. She talked. These guys are well versed on this stuff, and they've been through hell too. Especially Sidney Powell. The hell she went through is just garbage. The hell Jim and I went through and still are going through. the censorship, the attacking your advertisers so you don't make any money. That's been going on for some time. All this stuff's planned. All of it's still in place, and that's why we need a strong DOJ, and it's just not there. It's absolutely maybe it's better than Christopher Wray because he was just a fascist. And the leadership that's been there, but like you said, Chris, it's not been cleaned up. You're going to be shocked with these guys' stories. The great part in talking to these guys, though, was that on January, well, first of all, when Trump won, actually, when Trump got shot was a big day. All these guys are in prison. Enrique got 22 years. Wasn't even there.
For burning?
No, not even for burning the flag. It was just
of an organization that steals
for existing on January 6th.
That was a different crime. That was a different crime, Chris.
I think all he did was exist on January 6th. Right?
Well, that's about it. Yeah, and they said he was involved in a sedition. By the way, the lady who's now running the pipe bomber case, who just came out and said that this, I won't call him retarded, but this Asperger child, a young black man who lives in the basement of his mom's house and has a hard time making it. I guess he walks a Chihuahua every day in some sort of, slippers of sorts. This is the man who is the pipe bomber now. Well, we find out that the lady who's running that new that pipe bomber investigation is the same lady that happened to throw General Flynn, behind bars and was trying to throw him in prison.
Joe?
I know it. The same lady that then also sat down with Enrique Tarrio and said to him, here, read this paper. If you sign this, we won't give you 22 years. We'll give you 2. And it was saying that basically that he worked with President Trump on a seditious effort to overthrow the government. That's what this lady wanted to
do you remember her name?
Yes, it's all over the internet. The lady also was involved. She wouldn't sign off on General Flynn. Remember General Flynn? They found he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
The government is a bunch of liars. They pressed him into stuff. They're covering stuff up. Sidney Powell had her list of things she wanted. They didn't give it all to her because it would indict them. And so instead they said, yeah, we'll just drop the charges. But then the lady in the DOJ wouldn't sign off. It's the same lady. And so this monster, and I know there's some guys that can say her name right now, but this monster is running the pipe bomber case now. She's the one.
Joe, that grabbed this. Why is she still there?
Nobody can answer that. Not logically, not morally, not ethically. This lady should be behind bars. Yeah. She is a criminal. She asked somebody to commit a crime, which is commit perjury. And you would know this better than me, Chris. You're the attorney. She asked somebody to do that to set up the president of the United States, who they'd already committed a coup on with the election, who they'd already committed a coup on with Russia collusion, with the COVID, with all this stuff they did against this man. And they're still there. She's still there. And so that's the problem right now with our DOJ and FBI is you've nailed it. We haven't changed a thing. There's been a few people let go. Other than that, it's a joke. And then Chris, you're right in the middle of this. It's our Justice Department. It's our judges that are absolute insane with their rulings. I saw that a Clinton judge in the Comey case this week, just every day there's something more shocking that really as a child we would have been shocked about it being a major event and there would be some sort of impeachment or something. Now there's nothing. Maybe an investigation or some sharp words, a gotcha question by the Congress or some bogus stuff like that. But this stuff's every day. The judge in Comey's case, where he was working with his leaker, he says, well, that was my attorney and it's his friend, but it's also the guy who leaked all this stuff to try to get Trump because Comey's such a sleazebag. His whole family is. His daughter was running the Epstein case and more. This guy, the judge said, well, you need to destroy all this information between you and Mr. Richmond, Comey's buddy, who was involved in leaking this bogus information against President Trump. That's a Clinton judge that's doing that. So our judges are totally, they disrespect the law. They hate the law. It's for us to adhere to. They use it as a tool to hurt us. And that's it. That's the only purpose the law has. They can do anything. I think that's a crime for
So
her
he
to
wasn't
have
this
him
guy,
destroy that
Joe. This guy
information.
wasn't really Comey's attorney,
He's his friend.
but he
He's
called
his
him his
friend.
attorney. And you know why he
Then
called him his
Comey
attorney?
cleverly says, "Yeah, he's my attorney."
Yeah, because he can quote unquote plausibly destroy all that and not turn that over because it's considered work product between the client and the lawyer. That's how they got out of that. What a
it's crap.
bold-faced fraud.
It's total fraud. And he's done that with other people too. He's got like 5 attorneys like that. They're just all bogus criminals involved with him in the attempted coup of President Trump. So this is what we're living in. It's still a nightmare.
And you're right, Joe. You talked about we would be shocked to see some of this if we saw it on TV as children. And this week, you know how President Trump put out his truth post that said, "My fellow Americans," or "Dear fellow Americans," that he was going to be doing that speech that he gave last night, his announcement. And it made me wonder what made that statement, "My fellow Americans," famous. And so I asked Grok, and Grok told me that the first time that was used was Richard Nixon's Checkers speech. And this is the speech where Richard Nixon was running for vice president under Eisenhower. And he had been accused of taking $18,000 of bribe money. And so he goes before the American people and he bears his entire finances, how much he owes on his mortgages, how much it costs his family to live, and says that the only thing that his family has ever been given that they didn't pay for was their dog, Checkers, who was given as a gift.
Oh, wow.
And I just couldn't help but think, what a man of integrity. He didn't he defended himself. He laid everything bare for the American people to see and to judge. And he said, you know what, I'm not going to quit, but if the RNC wants me out, it's their decision and I'll honor their decision. We haven't even come close to seeing anyone with that level of integrity in politics in a very long time, it feels like.
Well, Trump,
yeah. But other than that,
I think Trump's been, he's not perfect. People say, no, he's perfect. He's absolutely perfect. He's a miracle for this day and age. Nobody could do what he's done. He's light years ahead of everybody. And that's why he's hated so much. And now I look back at Nixon, by the way, I didn't know a lot about Nixon. I did know that his second race, he blew it away. He had still the record for the largest difference between votes, something like 17 million, and won it. And a year later, he's resigning. And they did the same thing to Trump. Yeah. And I love Roger Stone for pointing a lot of this out. He worked in Nixon's administration, worked in Reagan's, and is a great friend of Trump. So this monster, the deep state, has been there, but now it's taken on even a more sinister look and more. And I think the globalists are involved in the fascists. I'm not kidding you. I think there's these techniques, the stuff that we suffer through. If you're being targeted, it's that of a communist fascist regime. And I mean, 4 people died on January 6th. We forget 4 Americans died that day and were killed. Killed by the Capitol Police. And you could say they were murdered, I think, and maybe there's a distinction there, but they died. And then the media pushed this narrative that 5 Capitol policemen died, and that's just total lie. None did, 0. Yeah. And so that's how. And so a big part of this whole thing is the media. It is the truth, and that's why it's so important what you guys are doing. So important. And what everybody's doing to try to push the truth. And the great news is Americans want the truth, and they will work to find it. Jim gave a speech, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. He got an award, I think the Breitbart Award or something. And he compared the news at that time to what it was like for those behind the Iron Curtain. And then there was this America's Voice, what was it called? The U.S. was pumping information into these satellite nations in their language, and it would get changed. The Nazis or the communists would somehow crush that signal, start pushing something so you couldn't hear it. So then the U.S. would change, Voice of America, maybe is what it was. Then
Yeah.
the U.S. would change the frequency without saying where it is, and people would find it. And the message was people will work for the truth. They want the truth. I think there's something, getting back to your Christmas story, I think there's something holy about the truth. It's like it feels really good. There's something about a lie that's very unsettling, for a good person. People that are possessed, not so much. They can walk with lies all day long, I guess. But for the average good person, it's really hard to sit on a lie.
On that, speaking of someone whom I still believe is a good person who just stepped down from the FBI, do you think that Bongino stepping down has something to do with what we're talking about right now, and he just didn't want to be a part of it anymore?
Well, I talked to somebody this morning who has some insider information, and Dan's from part of Florida where I'm from. I've seen him around. I won't tell you exactly how. Maybe but this guy told me that well, for one, he's given up a lot of money, from his podcast. Sure. He was making a lot of money, and but I know he's given a lot of money away as well. And then this guy said, well, it was always just going to be a 1-year gig. And I've never heard that before, but that's what somebody told me this morning. That's close to him. At least, pretty close to him, I'd say. And then, so I don't know about that. I've heard he's actually been working from home the last 2 weeks. And here in Florida. And that's breaking news. Nobody knows that. And then he's going to quit, I guess, in January. So it is tough being away from your family. I think that was tough. But I can't help, Chris and Danielle, to think that it's not due to the fact that it's a mess there. It's a mess.
Yeah. Chris and I were watching a video that Katie had sent us before we came on air that was talking about the history of Susie Wiles and Pam Bondi and all of their lobbying work, and just how tied into so many really seedy companies they are through that Ballard group.
Yeah. Well, see, I mentioned Roger Stone's name before too. He has come out, I think, in support of Susie. So that makes me wonder what's really going on. The problem for us is distinguishing between what's the truth and what's not. I'm not saying what you're saying. Yeah. I've heard a lot of that, Danielle. There's a lot that see, Roger said Susie, for example, has never worked for some big pharma firms. That's not true, he says. And
I have. So that's why I have a hard time throwing stones, because I'm like, if we look at every single person who's worked for some bad company, I don't know if we're going to have any people left, because there's a lot of good people that still have to work for bad companies just to be able to make a living.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those companies do great things too, but so I don't, so that's a good point, Danielle. I've heard somebody else criticize this one guy's wife because she's on the board of one or two of these companies, and he had just met her and married her, and so that's what this person used to criticize this guy. And I'm like, well, that's not really fair. He didn't know, and probably she didn't. She's just a successful professional who got invited to be on a board of directors. So, and probably most people are going to take it unless your schedule's so busy or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Joe, nobody would care really what they did before they joined the Trump administration if they would simply do their jobs.
That's a solid point.
Is that too much to ask for them simply to do their jobs?
Well, and that goes back to me. So I don't know. A challenge sometimes is seeing things the way they are, because sometimes it's painful. I think, well, first of all, I think overall I'd have to give Trump an A+. I just can't think the mess he stepped into, the nightmare that this country was in. We don't even know how bad it is.
Yeah.
The cleanup's huge, but he brought in, I think, a stellar cabinet with one exception, and it's Pam Bondi. I think the other people seem to be doing pretty well. The media is hard on them all. The press is negative totally. And then I think there's ops as well. So like you talk the stuff about Susie, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to withhold my judgment there. And it's pretty bold because a lot of people are coming down hard on her. A lot of people. And they may very well be right. I just don't know. And I haven't really studied it. And I don't know the sources. And we find here this is our problem. Writing at Gateway Pundit and stuff. It's like somebody will give you something, you'll put it up, you realize, oh, it's garbage. It's just garbage.
Yeah.
And you take it down, it's embarrassing, and you try not to do that kind of stuff. You don't want, obviously you don't. You want to be known for integrity, and that's I think why Gateway Pundit had gotten so big is because people were going there, but they knew that what they were getting would be the truth, and it was from this conservative point of view. And the media right now is toxic. I think the media, so if the biggest problems for me is the judges, the Justice Department, and the media, and the three of those things can cause incredible harm on a country and probably destroy it. And we're seeing that. So we can't let these criminals get away with what they've done. And if we do get finally get somebody indicted like Comey, well, then in D.C. or in Virginia or wherever it is, you got these corrupt judges that are getting these cases. It's not random. I don't care, Chris, what they say. These are not random picks. It's the odds of some of these are just astronomical. Sidney Powell had 4 huge cases after the 2020 election. 3 of them got in front of Obama judges in 3 different states. The other one got in front of this radical, I think, Reagan judge in Georgia, and he didn't even look at it. And so, what are the odds of that? It's 0, like 0. And these judges were radical. They were radical. They went after her license for reporting the truth. We had this week. Here's another thing. This week in Wisconsin, 3 of Trump's attorneys are in court. One of them has been pushed off to the side just to probably torture him some more. And 2 of them the judge said, yeah, you can move ahead with indictments against these Trump attorneys. It's from 2020 for helping out in creating these alternate set of electors. And you should read the local media paper the way they write that up. It's so disgusting. It's full of lies. And they all do. And I think it's a carbon copy that goes to all the local papers around Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And fortunately, those libs that are reading that stuff today are dying and getting old. So that strategy is not going to work much longer. Nobody's going to go there. Fortunately, we're in the forefront on the internet, and they've got a ton of money and stuff, but people still want the truth.
Absolutely.
But anyways, here's two attorneys they're going to get sued, maybe criminally, for I think it might even be criminal acts that they committed in setting up alternate sets of delegates for the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And
was that similar to what?
Just
go ahead,
ruled
Danielle,
on
sorry.
that, right? I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
The Supreme Court just ruled that the electors were fine?
They're legit. Yeah. So they go after these guys, say, oh, they lied to these people. They're making stuff up. It's based on one guy. Is that similar
to what they did to Giuliani, Joe? That's similar to what they did to Giuliani.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they had with Giuliani, the problem was he had his judge was just a monster. She's not even real. She's not even a person. She's just a freaking evil demon. Wow. And actually, I talked to Rudy about this judge, and he said, you could see it. You looked in her eyes. He said, my God, they were dark.
Shoot.
Satan was running that lady.
Holy
and so,
folks.
And I think there are a number of really these judges that are just dark as can be. Amy Berman Jackson, what she did to Roger Stone and Paul Manafort and others, outrageous.
Yeah, the SWAT team to Stone's house. What a threat to the public he was.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Why has nobody been indicted for that? I would like to know every FBI's name who was at every one of these arrests, and I would like to have them go before I'd like to have them convicted of crimes.
Yeah.
You know,
What do you think the general, Joe? What do you think the general perception among conservatives is? I certainly know what it is among my group. Uh, the general perception of Pam Bondi now.
I just think I just can't see how anybody can really stand behind her. And I've been giving her the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if I mentioned her. I think I can share this. Her brother is an attorney, and he's stood up for a couple great people. And he sent me some information about his cases. And so I put the stories up, and within a week or so or less, the cases were dropped. So
that's amazing.
Because they were bogus cases, they were bogus. It wasn't that because he's her brother or whatever. He said, she's recused herself from all his cases, etc. So I have respect for him quite a bit. I've never met Pam, but he speaks highly of his sister, of course. But other than him, I don't know who's really speaking highly of her. It'd be nice to hear what Bongino has to say. I hope Bongino's. I tell you what. After a while, you start wondering on everybody.
Yeah,
I'm like,
You really do, and
hope.
that's why you learn to really. Shakespeare said that, when you find a true friend and a true ally, you need to fasten him to your soul with hoops of steel because they're so rare. And you're right, especially in this environment, Joe.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You trust people, and then they wait. They sit in hiding. I think Pence is a great example. Sits back. He screwed Flynn. Now we find out that, he had all the information. He lied to Trump. He told Trump that Flynn made something up. It was a lie. He was the liar. Trump sent Pence over there to take a look, thinking Pence was honest about his Christian belief and all that garbage. He's a liar. I think there's nothing worse than somebody that uses Christianity as a, armor to prove their integrity, only to find out that they're just liars. I
could not agree more.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Was Pence. That was
just
Pence.
Utterly and totally obnoxious.
And he hurt Flynn. And then, like I said, then they wouldn't drop the case. The lady in charge of that wouldn't sign off on it to drop the case, even though everybody agreed to drop the case. And then the judge brings in another judge, and all this stuff is crazy. And I remember listening to Sidney Powell live as she was arguing in front of this court, and they're saying, well, what about this? She goes, well, because there is no precedent. Nobody's ever done this before. What you're basically saying, what you're doing is a crime here, Judge. And that's this Judge Sullivan, who she ironically had written about in a favorable report in a book of hers that what is it? She gave me the book. It's right behind me. Her famous book on the liars, A License to Lie, which was about Weissman and Mueller and Ray, that were all involved in the Enron deal, and how they were liars, they were snakes, and they were very bad people. And I got to tell you, I got a story, and I'm hoping this guy gets pardoned. The one guy in the DOJ that seems to be doing something is Ed Martin, and he's helped a lot. Think about it, 1,500, 1,600 of the January 6ers. Well, they're out, but I guess I don't know how much Ed had involved in that, but he's now over some of these other pardons. And remember how there was this guy who was the head of Honduras, recently Trump pardoned, and they said and then the media goes off on Trump. Oh, Trump released the drug trafficker. The problem was it was all a lie. This was a good guy that they were framing as a drug trafficker. So Trump rightly and honestly pardoned this guy. Roger Stone wrote a piece on that was excellent. I really, I couldn't be happier with Trump. Even with the DOJ being so terrible, he's doing things that, even I think this Tina Peters, for example, this pardon on Tina that just happened in the last week. Think about the stuff we're talking about that just happened in the last week. And so he pardons her. I guess today's Thursday. It was a week ago today, right?
Yeah.
And so she gets pardoned, and people said he couldn't do it. And then the people there running the prison won't let her out. They won't let her out. The attorneys went to pick her up on Friday, and nope, we're not going to let her out. And I've heard they've got like 4 or 5 guards around her at all times, even though they're shoving her in the hole into solitary. And they wouldn't let her out. They laughed when they came and asked the second time, laughed at them, the attorneys. And so she's still stuck in prison, and yet she's been pardoned. And I do agree with Peter Tickton's analysis of what's going on. She's been pardoned by the President of the United States. These people have the audacity not to let her out is outrageous. The fact is, you don't throw somebody in prison who you think might be a criminal, you know? And in this case, she's been pardoned. If you have an argument that whether the pardon was accurate or doable or not, you don't leave somebody in prison while
That's
you figure that out. You left that person is innocent until proven guilty, but not Tina. Not Tina. She's still in prison, and her health is not good. She's had cancer before. She's coughing a lot. They put her in this room that was real tiny with this other lady, and they had this big freaking like AC unit blowing into the room. It was like 40 degrees in there.
Holy
and
smokes.
She's 70 as it is.
Yeah.
And
it's Colorado in the middle of winter.
Yeah, she's getting sick. And so she put multiple layers on, and then I heard they scolded her for wearing more than one set of clothes. So she got a write up on that, like she's a bad, prisoner. She's in with the worst of the worst. Some of these women are murderers and stuff like that. They put her in with the worst, and then they throw her in the hole on top of it. And so she's already sick. She's already coughing like crazy. Some people think her cancer might be back. And so then they throw her in the hole where she can be all alone. They can slide some food underneath the door to her, once a day or whatever. And yet, although I did hear this week that when she walked by some of this, they won't let any other prisoners around her. When she did walk by some prisoners, they went, gave her the heart.
Oh.
So there's people in there that know
what's
going on. And that's the same story I heard from these January 6ers. They said when Trump won, the whole prison was cheering.
Wow.
Was cheering. And they're saying, hey, White House, you're getting out of here. These Latinos would call this one guy White House. He said they didn't realize it was the Capitol, not the White House, but I'm not going to argue with them, and they were saying that, and this one guy shared those 5 that we interviewed. He said on the day that he walked out of there, the whole prison was cheering.
Wow.
They're cheering for him.
And those jacklegs tried to delay their release as long as they could, even after they were pardoned, to add insult to injury.
Yeah. And these guys, though, and there's, it was damaging what they did. They raided their homes. They were innocent. I think the worst, and you guys have you had Chris Kuhn on to talk his story? He's a Marine. He was, Jim shared with me. I've had him on and talked to him, and there's a mug, that mug behind me, the silver mug, that is from Chris. He sent that to me. Good, handsome young man, was a Marine, stellar Marine. He ended up running the 21-gun salute at Reagan's funeral.
Wow.
You got to be pretty special to be able to do that.
No kidding.
And then he went to the Capitol with some other guys. He thought, I'll help protect people there. I'm willing to do that, because he saw what these Proud Boys and stuff were doing. And a lot of people saw that and said, right on, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Because the cops were standing back and watching them, innocent Americans, men, women, and children get beat up by these wussies from Antifa. So these guys said, no, we're not going to put up with that. And they started protecting people, and other people said, that is cool. And so this guy went to protect, and he's not a member of the Proud Boys, but he was there. Went in the Capitol. Anyways, told people to pick the garbage up. One guy was smoking dope. He told him to stop smoking in here, weed, and yes, it's and then he asked the police what he could do. They said, can you get people out of here? So he helped round people up and tell them to leave. And that was it. That's what he did. Probably in there a half an hour or something. I don't know. Maybe not even 2 months later, he lives in Kansas. The FBI shows up, surrounds his house. I think they got like 3 of these mini tanks. His neighborhood, he's in a cul-de-sac. They block it off. They block off his cul-de-sac, so his neighbors are all, scared and uncomfortable, wondering what's going on. They not pound on his door, damn near break it down, come in. They force his wife, who's pregnant and has a 4-year-old, and she's in her, like you do in the Midwest. It's warm in your house. You're wearing your shorts and bare feet and stuff. Made her stand out in front, even though it's January and it's below freezing. And they brought him out, threw him on the grass in snow, and handcuffed him. He just had surgery on his arm, and they didn't care. They just mangled it, carted him off. The next day he comes home, and she's not home, nor is his son. He goes to the neighbors, finds his son, and he finds out that his wife had a miscarriage overnight. And that's what our government did to
The
this
stress
guy,
of it.
to his
Yeah.
family. Well, they made her stand out
Unbelievable.
on the front step for freaking 40 minutes in her bare feet in the freezing cold. I mean, and nobody's been held accountable
That's
for
so
this.
evil. That's
I
so
don't
evil,
understand
Joe.
it. I don't understand it. Why hasn't there been an inventory of all this? Why haven't they sat down with every January 6er and said something? Instead, she's blocking these court cases that these guys are filing against the the government.
Who's blocking them?
I think it's Bondi. So I don't, so that's it. I don't know what's going on there. I wrote a piece here a week ago. We got 6 people there in the FBI, DOJ that are all involved with crimes. 5 guys from the project that Jack Smith ran, where he spied on everybody. 5 of those guys are now running FBI offices around the country. One of them got removed, but then we find out about this lady who, signed off, wouldn't sign off on Flynn's case, wouldn't, was behind the January 6th, the entire investigation. She's obviously an absolute criminal that should be in prison. And I don't say that, I mean that. I think,
Yeah.
obviously. And then here she is now running that pipe bomber case. What's she doing in the DOJ? So to me, that was step one that needed to be done. You clean house. I was mentioning, I actually was talking to General Flynn the other day, and I said in the corporate world, when a person gets a new job at a company, like a CEO of a big company, the person they bring with them is the HR. They need somebody in HR they really, really trust. And so they can discern if he's got the right team or not.
Yeah.
And that's what they should have done at the DOJ. You need to bring somebody in with into HR that's going to tell you every single case these people have been on. You need to identify all those cases, all those efforts that these people have been involved with, and then you need to get rid of them. It's not a question.
Those are things that you absolutely have to know. Joe, if someone had told you a day or 2 days before Trump was elected that some, if not many, of the central figures involved in persecuting him and trying to destroy his life, trying to destroy the life of the J6ers and otherwise innocent Americans, would still be in positions of power, would you have believed it?
I would have thrown up.
You wouldn't have believed it.
No, you'd be shocked. Here it is a year later.
Has anyone given any reason why? Because I remember when Kash Patel was going on all the podcasts saying that he was going to turn the Hoover Building into the Museum of the Deep State on day one. And there are still people running field offices that are crooks.
Yeah. Reporting to Kash. I don't know what happened to Kash. He looks like a deer looking at headlights, raccoon looking at headlights. He just looks freaked. And so it's a big job, though. And, it's not, I thought I heard there's 118,000 or something employees in the DOJ, maybe 30-some thousand in the FBI. Those organizations are huge.
Yeah.
They are massive. And you needed somebody to come in that's, you need somebody of integrity, first of all. Then you need somebody that's got if he doesn't have it, you need somebody that's going to bring in people that have the skill set that he lacks. And if it means he doesn't know how to clean shop, well, then bring somebody in who does. And there's people that do that in the corporate world, and they don't have a problem. They look at it as business, and they fire people. And a lot of people feel real uncomfortable about doing that if they're nice people or whatever. But sometimes that's business decisions, and it's tough if you're on the wrong side of it. But that's what they need to do. I remember Chris Farrell back, and I remember it distinctly. He was on Fox News. He's this guy who's in a Judicial Watch. He's a cop of sorts. I don't know if you remember this. back in 2017 or 18, he said, we need to shut down the FBI and start over. We need to take all those cases, move them over to the U.S. Marshals and shut it down. It's beyond repair now. That was almost 10 years ago he said that. He was absolutely right. The next day he was kicked off Fox. He was no longer a guest on Fox.
They didn't want to hear that kind of truth.
No, stating the obvious.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was right. And I think they need to. I don't know how you. I'm more for a hardline approach, kind of like I'll say it with addiction. You don't just wean your way off it. It's almost basically impossible. It's just the thing that seems to work is you slice it, you cut it off, you end it, and it's easier
Joe,
to stop than control.
I didn't know what to think of Kash Patel. I was leaning toward genuine confidence in him when he was selected, and I'm disappointed in him at this point. But Pam Bondi, honestly, I knew from the very beginning when I first saw her speak, I said there is no way that she has the gravitas or the backbone or the stamina or the will to do what needs to be done. There is nothing about her that suggests she was up to this task.
Right.
And honestly, I don't just say this retrospectively. I believed it at that time. And I think I'm being proven right, much to my sadness.
Yeah, I think you were right too. I think the thing too that was a clue was that she made it through the Senate. And again, so we can be critical of Trump or these other. Trump has to deal with these monsters in the Senate, and the biggest monsters are maybe Republicans.
Exactly.
And
some from our state.
They're nasty. They're liars. They're snakes. I don't know what they are. Uniparty, whatever you want to call them. They are dishonest, unholy individuals. Disgusting. Yeah. And I put, we could name them probably out of the 50, probably 20 or 30 that you'd say I wouldn't trust that guy in my living room. And that's how it is. And so Trump had to figure a way to get his cabinet in place with all these monsters there. I know he had to cut some deals. He knows how to cut deals better than anybody. Anybody else would have gone insane. And I think the deal was you ain't ever getting Gates in. That was their thing. You will never get Matt Gates in. And Gates finally had to step aside. And that was really disgusting because you're like, we're all part of this one party. What are you doing to Trump? And really to this day, he's still got a number of people that haven't even, passed yet. It's disgusting. I put a piece up last weekend, something like only 5 bills have been passed in Trump's first year. Lowest ever by far. Maybe the next second lowest is 50 by some president in their first year. The House it was House, the Senate, all these appointees, the fewest amount that have been appointed. Just things, these people should have been in on day one. As soon as Trump appoints them, bam, they're in. This process of waiting for these criminals in the Senate to say whether you can hire somebody or not is outrageous. I don't agree with it at all. I don't think, Lindsey Graham or Susan Collins should have any say in who President Trump hires. It's not their job. And if they don't like him, they should have a process to be able to get rid of him. This is outrageous. What's going on?
And it all goes back, Joe, to having fair elections. If we could trust our elections, then maybe we could start trusting our politicians.
Absolutely. It's a big deal. So the judiciary, Justice Department.
Do you have any insights, Joe, on the
elections.
Truckload? Do you have any insights on the truckload of evidence of 2020 voter fraud that President Trump is promising to unleash?
I'm thinking, and I don't know. I'm thinking this stuff with Venezuela is going to maybe that's going to be raised. But it's some of that stuff so disappointing because he doesn't have this. The Senate and the House aren't behind it. And I get these things every day from them asking for money. I'm disgusted with the GOP. And so I've heard that Trump's going to do something. It'll be an executive order. I heard the Tina Peters thing. He went around the DOJ. He just did it himself. And he may have to do more of that. He really may. And I hope so. And I'd heard from one guy for a while. Now I question if this guy even knew anything about it. So that's kind of how it is. You're like, who am I trusting? Who's really got the information? I don't know what's going to happen. I've heard paper ballots and all that. Trump would love to do that right now. He talks about it all the time. He's probably just going to have to do an executive order and just get it done. I thought maybe last night he might announce it.
Yeah.
Or last night he might announce he's bombing Venezuela, or last night something, or Ukraine. It looks like the globalists have taken over Ukraine. They signed an agreement, but the U.S. never signed on, which is a good thing. So they want to keep fighting Russia. There's this. There's so much propaganda against Russia in Europe, and I don't believe it. To me, the evil ones are the ones that are going after him. Really, quite frankly, I don't.
The ones that wear the Nazi patches on their uniforms.
Yeah, how about it? That was in the Ukraine. Yeah, Azov Battalion. You're right. By the way, we found there was a guy from the Azov Battalion on January 6th that was there. So what was he doing walking around? How did he get there? Who got him there? And what was going on? What was going on there? I think there was personally. Here's something I'll throw on the table. I think there was people in police uniforms that were not policemen. It might have been international. I really do. That happened in Canada. There was a truckers revolt and stuff, and some people, they caught these guys that were dressed up as Canadian police that were actually UN workers. So I wouldn't doubt that happened at January 6th.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
One guy said January 6th told me he was talking to this cop, and the cop looked at him like he didn't understand, and he goes, no you, the guy said, is like the guy couldn't even talk English, and he's begging this guy to help because they're smothering Roseanne Boyland. Please get these people off or help. No you. And finally he got on his knees. He said, I lost all my dignity, begged this guy, please help. No you. So then he stands up and turns around. The guy cracks him on the back of the head with and blood starts coming down the back of his head. And then he was arrested as a January 6er. That's what he did that day. You hear these stories. It's shocking. I think really, quite frankly, this documentary that we're putting together, I know Enrique Tarrio's doing one as he's going to blow you away. This stuff
When's it coming out, Joe? When's it coming out? Because
we were hoping January 6th, but I don't see that happening at all. I've been writing a book to go along with it. I probably could have it done by then. But anyways, there's so much. Yeah. There's so much information. But I don't know. We'll see. I just, they're talking about maybe going to DC and do something. I don't even want to go to DC at this time of year. I went there last year at this time of year at the inauguration. It was freezing there.
It's cold.
So cold. Yeah. And January 6th was freezing. Anybody that was there, they don't mention that. 1 million people there. They don't mention that. They never show pictures of the crowd, the real crowd. They never up on the ellipse. Were you guys there?
I wasn't. No.
Chris, were you?
Yeah. I was not there, but I have close friends who were. In fact, there's a gentleman who's about to begin advertising on the State of Freedom, who owns a very popular pizza restaurant here in Baton Rouge, and his wife went to J6 and did absolutely nothing wrong. She was just there to support the president, and she gets back home, and there is a hardcore Democrat representative here in Baton Rouge who started publicly calling for a boycott of her husband's restaurant here in Baton Rouge because his wife had the audacity to go to Washington, D.C. on J6. That's the kind of, so of course LeCag went to his defense and powered back on that very, very strong. And he's doing very well now. But that's an example of the kind of lunacy, Joe. And I guarantee you there are countless examples across the country.
They did that with our local grocer too.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even people who were not arrested and prosecuted suffered under this administration. Under the Biden administration. And as you're talking, Joe, and as you're talking about all of these things, it's just one thing after another. And the thing that concerns me deeply is that if these evil, sinister precedents are not hacked at the roots and permanently buried,
Burned.
they are going to be a growing cancer on our body politic and
Amen.
on this republic, and we're not going to survive it. Unfortunately, we're not going to survive this.
Yeah, it's biblical. There's something about it. You allow people to commit crimes and not hold them accountable. It is beyond evil. It's really, really bad, and you need to hold people accountable for justice.
And it's not, Joe, it's not just anybody committing a crime and getting away with it. It's the very people who are responsible for ensuring that justice is dispensed impartially in the country. They are the biggest criminals.
I think they should be held accountable times 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's biblical.
If you're in a position of fire, of authority, you need to be held to a higher level, so that if you commit a crime, you are severely punished. Severely, so that people in those positions never do it. For one, as a prevent others from the future. But we're putting a lot of trust in people like that, and they should be held accountable. I think that's how it should be. Instead, we've got people walking free. So when Bongino walks away, from the DOJ, I don't know. General Flynn last night, I saw he had a tweet out about it saying, "I'm tired of people while they're all talking, not working." And slamming Bongino, because he did. He was really hard on, the DOJ, and then he's going to go in there and fix it. And then what happened? What did he do? So,
and General Flynn
he became very, very quiet. I know that he became very quiet. I noticed.
Bongino.
Yeah. Danielle, did you notice that? Yeah.
Well, he was shut down.
Yeah.
So I don't blame him for leaving on that regard. If you can't do your job, can't do it right, then I don't blame him for leaving. And let's pray to God that the right people get in there. I think we need a general. So I thought Flynn would be great in there. He knows some of these snakes, and he knows what's right or wrong. Yeah. Get rid of these people. Fire them all. I'm sorry. If you fire somebody that did nothing wrong, I'm sorry. You say I'm sorry, but we have to clean this mess up. And I don't think firing's enough. I think people need to be arrested and put in prison. And you go in prison with those with other criminals and see what it's like. By the way, the January 6ers, the guys that I talked to, they were treated very highly by the prison population.
They were.
Because they were stood up against the government. And these guys, no matter what race, really, they didn't get messed with a lot. And they were even looked on highly. Like I said, when that guy walks out of there, the whole prison's cheering for him, saying, "Don't forget about me, White House." Things like that. It's powerful stories. Yeah. Even in the prison population, there's some ethics, man. You know what I heard? Two guys told me, those five, he said something like, everybody was behind Trump in prison. Everybody there was behind Trump. And except for the pedophiles. They're the ones that were voting for Kamala. Is that crazy, or that we're behind Kamala?
A microcosm of the American population.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I thought, wow.
Well, what we can do, and Danielle and I have talked about this, is we can keep fighting, and we can never surrender. We can never quit, and it will be God's victory, God's justice in the end.
And reminder, we're the majority. We're the massive majority. This is 20% that we're fighting against. They are nasty. Some of them are just dumb. Some of them are just radical. Some insane. But nobody's behind this. Nobody was ever behind, shutting down businesses and the insane stuff they forced us into, all built around surrounding lies and all that. Nobody's behind that. American people are really good people. I think that's why they're bringing in the foreigners, by the way, from this third world, is to destroy America's culture, make it just like a third world where people will steal, like we're finding every day now. Somalians around the country that were just, and shops were created just to get this food stamps so they could refund the money on the food stamps to these people. Some of these shops did nothing but food stamps and made a couple million in a couple years. And it's like, what's that? It was all a scam. These guys figured it out. And so that's what happens when you bring in a different culture. And, and you better treat it harshly. That's the problem with our DOJ too. This, justice delayed is justice denied, and
That's right.
there is so much of that. Especially James Comey, what's that? This guy should have been in prison years ago. Even with this mortgage stuff, or whatever he had recently, it wasn't mortgage, it was lying and leaking. Why is he not in prison for that? It's obvious. It's on some of the stuff that's on video. It's obvious. Why are these people not being held accountable? I don't.
Yeah. Another thing that people are sick of.
Bad.
Another thing that people are sick of. People are fed up with these strong soundbite cross examinations in committee hearings and subcommittee hearings, and nothing else ever happens. They never go beyond that. And I think people are sick and tired of that too.
Yeah. Like, oh, Jim Jordan got him with that one. I don't care. I don't really
exactly.
give a damn. I'm almost to the point, 200 pedophiles just got arrested or whatever. Great. Jim Comey's still walking around. So is Brennan. And they're working on another plan to freaking do a coup against Trump. What about that?
Are they?
Well, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
I think we're in it right now. I think, and that's why I'm kind of hesitant with stuff like about Susie Wiles or any of Trump's top people. It's, you look at the media again, it's just as bad as it ever was. It's like 97% negative. Can you imagine that? 97%? I don't know if Hitler got 97% negative in this media, Yeah. It's terrible what they're doing. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. I don't even watch mainstream media anymore. It's so far. I haven't in decades. I don't know who's even watching. I'm hoping it's these old liberals that showed up at these rallies recently that came out of nursing homes, to stand up to ICE or whatever, Between that and the illegals, if it wasn't for that, there'd be nobody there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be very, very sweet when we win. And as Danielle reminds me frequently, we will win. Because you look in the scripture and you look at all of the times when David or Moses or Paul faced overwhelming odds, and yet they prevailed, and God's justice did prevail. And we just have to remember that ultimately it's God's battle. And I think that maybe we're in this position, so we'll always remember when we do win that it was God that did it and not ourselves, that it was him. And we'll have no choice. The conclusion that it was God's victory will be inescapable, and we in our own way are simply his instruments. And you've been a great instrument, Joe, and continue to be.
I just think of that fight. My God, what a phrase. Historic.
Yeah.
If we win this, that's going to go down forever.
I want to read a quote here, though, that reminds me of you before you go, or I'll forget to read it.
It's not from Charlie Brown, is it?
No, and it's not from Linus either. But it's from Mark Twain, and it says, in the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man, and brave and hated and scorned. And yet when his cause succeeds and his courage is vindicated, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. And that will always remind me of you. And I know many, many others as well. So
and
just wanted to leave you with that.
And maybe it should go in your J6 book. It sounds like them as well.
I think it should. It's certainly going in my journal. I have a green journal that I've had for 25 or 30 years, and I write quotes in it, and I've literally been doing it for a long, long time. And the Mark Twain quote is in there, and every time I read it or look at it, it reminds me of you and people like you across the country that give me and Danielle and a lot of people hope and inspiration. So, you're just a great patriot.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much.
Well, we love you, Joe, and Merry Christmas to you and your family, and Happy New Year. We will be seeing you, I think, in January.
Great.
And what's the segment called, Danielle, when Joe comes on regularly?
Oh yeah, the Patriot Pulse.
The Patriot Pulse with Joe Hoft.
Nice.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it.
God bless you, man.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Joe. I always love having Joe on.
So do I.
He talks to so many people that he gets really great insights that I think he leaves us a lot of nuggets on the show that we can't get even in kind of the conservative news circles,
No question. I mean, he's really an icon of contemporary media, and so many people go to him and go to the Gateway Pundit, and to get their news, because it's one of the very few sources that many Americans still trust, Danielle.
It's true.
And
I like his reminder, Chris. His reminder is so important that even as we look at this monstrosity of a government, that what we call a government, there's still more with us than are with them, right? It's 80-20 at worst. I think, it's probably even better than that. I would like to think that our numbers are better than that, but it's hard. It can be hard if you look at this every single day and you see the injustices that are continuing to go unanswered, like leaving Tina Peters in prison. And we've heard different things. Have you heard someone was calling for the U.S. Marshals to crash into her prison? And while that would get her out, and I would be pretty supportive of that, I don't know what that would do for the overall agenda,
Yeah, it would be yet another thing that the media would spend countless days and nights and weeks and months assaulting President Trump over. Ultimately, they would probably file articles of impeachment over it. And, so I guarantee you he's thought about doing that, and I would probably be conflicted about whether or not it would be fully constitutional to do that. But I do think that there are times when extreme injustices call for extreme remedy. And, perhaps this is one of those cases, because as it stands now, Danielle, she's going to die there, and it enrages me, to think that. And hopefully she won't. God can do whatever he wants to do. I think of St. Paul, when he was in jail, and, the Holy Spirit just burst the prison open, and he, ended up, getting away, he ended up being freed. And I think he's got, so I have great hope for Tina. I know there are millions and millions praying for her. And as serious an injustice as that is, that's one of countless injustices that were recited by Joe today. And Joe could spend another 2 or 3 hours on our show and continue to recite injustices that have not been answered, as you said. So we have to have justice, or we're going to end up, I think, we're going to end up meeting our demise because of the cancerous precedents that have been set by the previous administration and the way the rule of law has been entirely desecrated.
Yeah.
We just have to get this right. And I do believe that President Trump knows that, yet he's one man. He's one man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my wish for a Christmas miracle, Chris, is that Tina Peters would get out of prison, and that the truckloads of evidence of election fraud start to just be dumped out on the heads of all these criminals.
Yes. And my Christmas wish is that about 15 or 20 or 25 individuals that I could name right now receive, as one of their presents under their Christmas tree, a strong federal indictment.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But I am hopeful. I'm always hopeful, Danielle, and I really do. I guess I was built for it, because I like the fight for justice. I don't mind the confrontation. I actually like it when I'm fighting for something that I believe in. And these are the kind of fights of which legends are made, and there are a lot of legends that are going to be made among the patriot groups in this country if we continue to fight and keep our hope.
Yeah. Well, I can back that up, Chris. You are one heck of a fighter. And even when I was visiting with your brother Royal, probably, I don't know, last year sometime, he was mentioning what a fighter you are for, your clients, for the state, for policies that you believe in. So thank you for being a fighter and for being willing to fight on our behalf. You are not afraid of confrontation. I don't enjoy it that much. I'm getting more comfortable with it, but it's not my go-to move. But you just feel real comfortable right in there in the confrontation, and you just hang in there, and it's very instructive. So I
Well,
appreciate that about you.
I appreciate your saying that, and hopefully we inspire, you and I together, inspire other people, and I believe that we have. A number of people have said that our podcast inspires them, that LeCag inspires them, because we're simply not going to compromise on the
Yeah.
truth ever. And you know, whatever happens, happens. But we know that nobility and courage and virtue resonate in eternity.
Yeah.
Those are the things that resonate in eternity. And we just have to remember that and know that we are on this earth to please and to honor God, not to please and to honor man. And
That's
I know
right.
you've reminded me of that also. So
And
God
Chris,
bless you.
hold on. Well, God bless you, but I can't let you go yet because we have a couple of announcements and you have an advertisement that you're going to talk about. But the first announcement I think we've already made, which is that we will be taking off through the rest of the year. We need to recharge and kind of get some things organized for the year ahead. If you can believe it, the legislative session starts in early March. So we've got our work cut out for us, and that work starts now. So we will be back on January 6th with our friend Tom Renz. So that will be, I think, a very good way to start off the year. No doubt we will be remembering the plight of the prisoners who suffered so much simply for standing up for the truth and standing up for our country. Also, a reminder and I guess a bit of an announcement that our membership program should open for signups at the latest by Monday. And it will be a great gift if you want to keep that in mind. We have set an ambitious goal, but an attainable goal of having 100 members by the end of the year. So details pending. As I've been saying, if you want to be one of the first to know, please go to freedomstate.us and sign up for, just click the button that says sign up for exclusive updates and drop your email in there, and we will make sure that you are the first to know when membership opens. And Chris, I think we should maybe announce the first 5 people who sign up as members.
Absolutely, we'll announce it for sure, no question. We'll give them a big shout out, and I want to leave us today, Danielle, with a story of optimism. I have a good friend, Oscar Blanco, and he owns Blanco Brothers Construction.
Do you want me to put it up?
Yeah, put it up. They do commercial and residential roofing, gutters, sheet metal, chimneys. Absolutely superb at what they do. Oscar came here from El Salvador when he was 15 years old with about $10 in his pocket. He had nobody when he came into this country. And he somehow managed to get a job working for a roofing company, carrying roof shingles. That's all he did all day long, was carry roof shingles back and forth at the age of 15.
Wow.
And he slowly but surely learned the roofing business, worked day and night. I asked him, I said, Oscar, were you getting any sleep? And he said, there were days sometimes when he would go with no sleep. After he had been in the United States for 2 or 3 years doing this, speaking little or no English. Can you imagine if we were planted in a foreign country tomorrow, Danielle, and we couldn't speak their language, how difficult that would be?
Yeah.
So ultimately, he was able to get enrolled at the age of 17 as a freshman in high school at Lee High School. And he worked very hard. He learned the English language, and he ultimately graduated from Lee High School, went back to work for a roofing company, and worked there for a number of years and really continued to learn the business. And in 1996, he opened Blanco Brothers Roofing. And 20 years later now, he is one of the very best at what he does. So when it comes to roofing, gutters, chimneys, uh, he is the only call you need to make. Blanco Brothers Roofing. I've known him for a long time. I trust him with my life. I say in Spanish, eres mi hermano como mi propio sangre. That basically means you're my brother, just like you are my own blood.
Oh,
And I trust him with my life. I've seen his work. So if anybody, any of our listeners from anywhere, and he works in multiple parishes, South Louisiana, Central Louisiana, I think he's even been to Shreveport a few times. Call Blanco Brothers Roofing, and the number is 225-226-4222. That's 225-226-4222. Any roofing needs that you have, I can't recommend him highly enough, and tell him that the State of Freedom sent you.
awesome. Thank you, Chris. And what an honor to be able to have our very first sponsor.
Absolutely, and the American dream is still alive.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you, Chris. God bless you. Merry Christmas to you and Katie. I know we'll be in touch, but Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of our viewers. Thank you for sticking with us this year. We're going to come back refreshed and stronger and spicier than ever.
Absolutely. And in the words of the immortal William F. Buckley Jr., inveighing we shall go.
All right, Chris. See you soon.
You too.
The secret to losing weight 2 times faster has gone viral. See the transformations hundreds of thousands of men, women, and teens are experiencing around the world with the Slender Eyes drops. These homeopathic hormone balancing drops are proven to control appetite, support thyroid function, improve energy, boost mood, and increase metabolic rate. To learn more about the drops or other incredible natural wellness and lifestyle products, email me at danielle@freedomstate.us or visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. The secret to losing. Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.